Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. Imagine waking up tomorrow and finding an additional $200 in your Social Security check every single month throughout the rest of the year. That's exactly what a new proposal from Senate Democrats is aiming to make happen. It's bold, it's timely, and if you're receiving benefits, it could put some real breathing room back in your budget. But what exactly does this proposal include? Who would get the money? And what exactly does it mean for the future of Social Security? Let's break it all down. Senate Democrats, led by Chuck Schumer, Elizabeth Warren, and Ron Wyden, have introduced a bill called the Social Security Emergency Inflation Relief Act. If passed, this would provide a temporary boost of $200 per month to all Social Security beneficiaries. So that would be disabled individuals, retirees, survivors, spouses, even children who qualify for benefits. And the increase would go from the date of passage through the end of 2025. Now let's be very clear. This is just a proposal. It is not a bill that has made it to law, and it is expected to face very strong headwinds from a Republican-led Congress. And while it is aimed at providing relief from financial strain, its path forward is far from guaranteed. And it is worth noting that the full legislative text has not been made publicly available. We're just relying on an official announcement that used broad language that suggested it would target all recipients of Social Security benefits. Some analysts are saying that this proposal is part of a broader political strategy, highlighting the differences between Democrats and Republicans and how they view Social Security, and really aimed at keeping Social Security itself the center of conversation right now. So why this proposal and why now? The Democrats backing this bill say they're responding to a couple things. Stubborn inflation that's eroding current retirees' purchasing power, economic aftershocks from recent trade and tariff policies, and a need to protect vulnerable populations who rely on fixed monthly incomes to survive. Let's break those down in a bit more detail. Those key reasons for the proposal. One is offsetting inflationary pressures. Even though inflation has cooled from peak levels, costs are still high, especially for essential items like utilities, groceries, and healthcare. And for many on fixed incomes, they've seen these costs rise more than their current benefits. Addressing economic policy impacts. Democratic lawmakers point to President Trump's tariff policies, both those that have already been implemented and ones that were talked about during his campaign. And they say that these tariffs have led to an increase in costs and that this additional $200 a month would help those especially middle to lower income families. They say that they're protecting our vulnerable populations. This includes retirees, disabled individuals, survivors, and children who heavily rely on Social Security as a sole income source. They may have very limited financial flexibility and no other income streams to fall back on. And remember, Social Security was created during the Great Depression for exactly this reason, to help keep America's most vulnerable, especially the elderly, out of poverty. This proposal is seen by its supporters as continuing that mission in today's economic climate. Let's talk about what Social Security recipients are currently getting. Now, of course, how much an individual receives in Social Security benefits varies widely because it's tied to your work history. But let's talk about averages for a moment. The average monthly retirement benefit as of 2025 is $1,976. And if we want to take a look at what the max benefits are at key ages, just for the sake of curiosity, at age 62, it's a little bit over $2,800 a month. At full retirement age, about $4,000 a month. And at age 70, the max benefit is over $5,100 a month. And keep in mind that very few people actually receive the maximum benefit. It requires earning the maximum taxable income for an entire 35 years and then waiting until 70 to claim your benefits. So what would a $200 a month increase actually mean? Well, if we're looking at the average benefit, that'd be a 10.1% increase in payout. That is a very dramatic increase, especially when we compare that to what the typical annual cost of living adjustment is. Let's look at just how much benefits have gone up in the past 5 years on an annual basis due to cost of living adjustments. They tend to keep pace with inflation. They go up when inflation goes up and down when inflation goes down. That last figure for 2025 is just a projection based on current inflation trends. It is subject to change, and we won't have an official announcement until we get to October of 2025, because this cost of living adjustment for Social Security is based on Q3, or the third quarter of the year, July through September data, and we won't have that data until we complete out that quarter, and we'll get the official announcement at that time. Cost of living adjustments are based on the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers, or the CPIW. This tracks the prices of a basket of goods and services that are typically bought by these individuals. So these cost of living adjustments for Social Security are designed to keep purchasing power over time. But the CPIW isn't perfect, and some argue that it doesn't accurately reflect real-world expenses for older Americans, especially when it comes to things like prescription drugs or long-term care. Let's go back to the 2.5% cost of living adjustment we got going into 2025. Let's look at that average monthly benefit of just under $2,000. For the average recipient, this would lead to a cost of living adjustment of about $50. And you can absolutely make the argument that that certainly wasn't enough to keep up with inflation, because for many retirees, their grocery bill or their property taxes went up by more than that. So it's important to remember, yes, it's designed to help maintain the purchasing power of Social Security over time, but it's not perfect. These inflationary adjustments aren't perfect. But if you compare that to a $200 monthly benefit increase, the difference is clear. This type of boost would give 4 times the increase of a typical cost of living adjustment all at once. It's important to note that a roughly 10.1% increase on the average benefit is fairly rare, and it would be considered fairly unprecedented outside extreme high inflationary pressures. Let's talk about the pros and the cons of this proposal. Yes, it does offer immediate financial relief. An extra $200 could help seniors and those in vulnerable populations better afford the essentials when these essentials are feeling more expensive than ever. It would be considered an economic stimulus. People who heavily rely on Social Security tend to spend more locally and immediately, so this could give local economies a boost. It offers support for the most vulnerable groups. And remember that Social Security benefits aren't just for retirees. They're also for disabled individuals, widows and widowers, and even children, those who may not have any other income source to turn to. But for just as many pros, there are also cons to this situation. First of all, there's a strain on the trust funds. Roughly 69 million Americans receive Social Security benefits every single month. At $200 extra per person per month, this would cost around $14 billion monthly, or about $97.5 billion if we assume that this proposal passed and lasted for 6 months, say July through December. That kind of expense would accelerate the insolvency of the trust funds for Social Security, which are currently expected to have a shortfall or run dry as of 2035. There are also real fiscal responsibility concerns, as critics argue that the bill lacks any sort of funding mechanism. Without a new revenue source or without cuts elsewhere, this would lead to deeper national deficits or straining the Social Security trust at a quicker pace. And remember that this proposal is temporary in nature and would cause an income cliff. This boost in benefits is only proposed to go through the end of 2025. So that means once we get to the end of the year, beneficiaries would essentially receive a pay cut. And this could be a big problem for those who have expanded their budgets to use the entire amount they were receiving. And yes, it's likely that there would be a cost of living adjustment going into 2026, but it's likely to be more modest. It's not likely to be 10%. So inevitably, beneficiaries would receive a pay cut, and that can be hard to adjust to, especially if you're living paycheck to paycheck, as many of who receive Social Security benefits do. This brings us to the big question. Is short-term relief worth risking long-term solvency? For people struggling right now, this does provide immediate relief, but it does accelerate the rate at which Social Security trust funds would run out of money. So we're going to be putting future generations at risk to accommodate the retirees today. And that's really a core tension. How do we take care of the needs of today's retirees without compromising long-term stability? So, do you think Congress should pass the boost of $200 a month to Social Security benefits? Let me know your thoughts in a comment down below. One thing is for certain, it has sparked another crucial conversation about Social Security, and I hope to have many of those conversations on this channel. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I'll see you soon. Bye. why you didn't. I'm gonna look it up because someone's gonna correct me on that. Listen, I don't do politics. Not my thing. I do Social Security, and inevitably that shows up in politics. I found out how to pronounce the name. We're back. YouTube for the win. If I pronounce it wrong, the CNN anchor did too, so. It is, ugh. Nah. I did not stop the camera. Relief. I can't, relief. I don't say that. Don't hit the microphone. I'm on it. Let's do this. We can make it through. Immediately. Why do I keep saying immediately? I meant to say immediate. Period. Done. End of story. We're gonna get through it. Don't say like. My brother, when I was in high school, was always, don't say like. It's a sign. I won't use the word he used, but don't say it. It doesn't make you look good. That's what we'll go with. He said I was not allowed to say or like in my speech. I think helped long term, but it was a rough teacher. Pretty good. And the dogs didn't bark like crazy.